Jon Anik reacts to Alex Pereira versus KHALIL Roundtree and gives some insight about how secretive UFC's operational moves are. The announcement of Pereira versus Roundtree surprised many fans, as the latter has never been a big name in the sport, and with a mediocre career of ups and downs, he flew under the radar of many who haven't been paying attention to his recent performances and the results of those fights. He now has accumulated 5 wins in a row, with the last one being a TKO of Anthony Smith. A technical striker himself, KHALIL almost always offers fans entertaining fights, and stylistically, the Pereira matchup has some promise. On the other hand, it is interesting that Magomed Ankalaev, who is on a 12-fight unbeaten streak, did not get the opportunity to challenge Pereira, and instead will fight Alexander Rakic. Obviously, UFC will try as long as possible to keep stylistically difficult fights away from Pereira, capitalizing on his spectacular striking ability and power. Alex hasn't fought a wrestler in his entire UFC career, and Magomed's strong Dagestani wrestling base will undoubtedly pose some problems. But for now, we have a potential banger with the KHALIL matchup. Jon Anik and Kenny Florian discuss UFC's decision-making and react to Pereira versus Roundtree.
I don't know sort of the promotional inner workings in terms of how that all comes together. I do know that maybe some people were surprised when he was fighting Jamal Hill as the co-main event on a Conor McGregor pay-per-view, but KHALIL Roundtree Jr. was going to be fighting Jamal Hill for #1 contendership, so I don't know that we should be all that surprised, and he's going to bring his violence and his brand of it.
Dude, absolutely. And we've talked about this so many times, again, how one opportunity could change your life. And this could be it for Roundtree. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, again, you have to, at least as an athlete, take it like, this is my shot.
Robert Whittaker breaks down his fight against Khamzat Chimaev. After the devastating finish of Ikram Aliskerov, the Reaper reasserted himself into the middleweight championship contention, reminding fans and the sport that generally has short-term memory about his class as a competitor, effectively correcting himself for the loss he suffered to the current champion of the division, Dricus du Plessis. As we all know, at first, Rob was scheduled to fight Chimaev, but shortly before the bout, Khamzat had to pull out due to health problems. This resulted in his replacement by Aliskerov, who was regarded as a dangerous opponent for Whittaker himself. After the impressive performance, Rob decided not to wait for long and get back on the horse as soon as possible. And as he revealed later, after reviewing different options for his next move, he asked the UFC to reschedule the Chimaev fight, and UFC happily obliged. In the end, we still have got ourselves a matchup between Chimaev and Whittaker, but this time it is even more interesting, considering Rob's stellar performance the last time we saw him fight, especially against an opponent not too dissimilar to Chimaev, strictly in technical ability. Speaking with Submission Radio, the former middleweight champion previewed the matchup with Chimaev, shared thoughts on how the fight might look, and touched on preparations for the contest.
Yeah, definitely that high-paced start. And his wrestling prowess, it's quite simple. You know, got to worry about how hard he's going to push the wrestling envelope in the first few rounds, and then like what I'm going to do after that, after I stop the takedowns, after I get back up or whatever, and just taking the fight to him. You know, it's everyone can see how this fight's going to play out. Everyone can make a rough plan on how to approach it. So what you're thinking is probably what I'm doing. Now I've essentially had 2 camps for this guy, right?
Yeah.
I think skill set wise, I'm probably at the best I've been, especially most prepared for Khamzat, theoretically speaking, as I could be, right?
Yeah.
I got my eyes on the prize and I'm switched on.
Khamzat Chimaev previews the Robert Whittaker fight and reveals he'll be joined by John Jones in his training camp, after a long period of uncertainty about his future due to health problems and legal issues. It now seems that Khamzat's career path is finally getting some stability. Since the rescheduling of Robert Whittaker fight, except for a minor health scare due to food poisoning, the Chechen prospect has been working hard to get back into ideal fighting shape, linking up with old wrestling coaches and ramping up intensity of sessions as the training camp progresses. He's as open to the fans as ever, and posting content from the camp on his social media, or appearing in various interviews to discuss his future moves and the Whittaker fight in detail, have become normal activity. Most of the interviews are in Russian, as he's in Abu Dhabi and surrounded by Russian media members who have open access to the UAE, something they don't have in most of the Western world. Speaking with a Russian MMA media channel Whittaker, Khamzat commented on his intention to avenge the loss of Ikram Aliskerov, and for the first time revealed that John Jones will join him in his camp to help him prepare for Robert Whittaker. Quote, "I know Aliskerov, he's a good guy. We had a fight. I thought he was gonna win, but unfortunately, he lost. Now I have the Whittaker fight, and I can avenge the loss. I think, considering my winning streak. After this fight, the company will give me a title shot. Dana says different things at different times. We have to figure it out. We're in constant negotiations. I'm training like crazy. I spoke to John Jones this week. He will be coming here, and we'll train together." Khamzat also talked about the one fight that he wants to run back, because he feels he didn't come close to showcasing his true potential and fell victim to his emotions during the contest. Quote, "I want to run the Gilbert Burns fight back. I was fighting very emotional and wanted to break him mentally, disregarding technical aspects. That was a mistake, and because of that, the fight went the way it did. I won by a decision, but in the future, I want to have a rematch with him and get a finish." End quote. CHAEL Sonnen comments on the opinion that Kamaru Usman is way past his prime and washed up. The American gangster finds the notion that he is discussing, perplexing, and doesn't understand where it comes from. Of course, with 3 losses in a row, and at the age of 37, Kamaru is no longer the unstoppable force that he once was in the welterweight division, when he nearly ran out of contenders to fight. A common talking point for Dana White that time was, quote, "He's lapping these guys, he's the greatest welterweight ever," and so on. Well, after Leon Edwards' shocking late knockout of Usman, his career took a dive. He lost the rematch to Edwards, followed by a defeat to Chimaev. And even though he looked relatively good in all 3 of those fights, and most likely still has things to offer to the sport and the fans, the great winning streak before becoming champion, and as a champion, when he knocked off contender after contender, is long gone. The power of momentum is no longer his great partner. So all things considered, it was natural that questions about his future in the sport and potential to compete at the championship level again have been circulating around him. He has no fight scheduled yet, but he's been clear about his intention to jump back into competition and go for the title again, no matter what it takes. CHAEL Sonnen is baffled about people even questioning Kamaru's current form, with some calling him washed up. Here's what he said.
"I have never heard that privately about Usman. I've never heard that in private conversations with people that don't like Usman. I have never heard he's washed up, but he has. He was having to answer for it. And you know what? If that is a narrative, let's go all in. Because there's a trajectory to a career, right? And it goes the same way. The toes you stepped on your way up are the asses that you're going to kiss on your way back down. Like, it goes the same way. A guy like Kamaru Usman that's washed up has been, right? This is what, I can't believe this is actually being said about him. I truly have not heard that anywhere, but he did. Okay, great. If he's washed up and his best days are behind him, he was still a world champion main event, and he still gets to work his way down the card. He's still going to get a contract, and then he's going to get one after that.